Howdy and welcome to episode 64 of T-Shirts and Shawls. I'm Karen and today is Thursday, November 8th, 2018. So I still have quite a few things to do to get ready for the East Texas Fiber Festival, which is tomorrow and Saturday. So my goal is to kind of make this a quick episode. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and get started. I am super thrilled to say I have finished Sizzle Pop. So if you have been watching the podcast, you've noticed that I've been working on this brioche project, and this project has pretty much gotten my entire attention since I started it. And I should have looked up my Ravelry project to see what day I started it, because I'm curious to know how long it took me to finish it. So I started it on October 12th and finished it November 3rd. So that, for me especially, is a pretty quick project. So definitely got my full attention, and I pretty much worked on this to the exclusion of everything else, I think, except for a pair of socks. So this is, kind of two directions really, that you start down here and you knit and increase until you get to the top. And then I think the best way to wear it probably is to go ahead and do it like I had. We've got kind of the point going down here, kind of wearing it like that. Anyway, so this is by Leslie Ann Robinson, who does some really, really fabulous brioche things. And although I have done brioche, this is my first time doing increases and decreases. So if you are kind of beginning at brioche, or you want to kind of expand your skills, and you, especially if you haven't really done the increases and decreases, I highly recommend this project. You learn 5 different increases and decreases, and you can tell, I mean, it's a pretty repetitive stitch pattern, but it doesn't get like boring repetitive, or at least it didn't for me. But it is pretty repetitive, so you get to practice those skills over and over and over again. So I feel after working on this project that I've definitely got those increases and decreases memorized. At the start of the project, I had to read the description for each one almost every time that I was doing it. But by a few repeats in, I had them memorized, and I feel much more confident and comfortable with those decreases and increases. So that feels great. And still need to really learn brioche fabric and how to fix mistakes. That's something I'm going to have to be working on. And there were a few little bobbles here and there in the project. Okay, the cats have decided to get in a tussle. A few little bobbles here and there on the project, but nothing that I think is super obvious. I was able to kind of fix things so any mistakes were kind of hidden, and brioche is technically reversible. So there's the other side with the dark as the dominant color, but I really prefer this side. I like that one better. But you can wear it both ways. Anyway, so that's the hard thing with fixing mistakes. There is no wrong side. So when you're trying to maybe make something look a little bit better, sometimes if you've got a gap or a hole, you can kind of sew it up a little bit on the wrong side so it doesn't show through on the right side, but you don't really have that option as much with brioche. So there's still definitely a lot for me to learn with brioche, but this project I feel has really helped me advance my skills. So really excited about that. If you are interested in brioche, and especially this project, but you're not really sure that you want to do it on your own, then at DFW Fiber Fest, which is next year in April, Leslie Ann Robinson is actually one of the teachers, and she is doing a Sizzle Pop workshop. So this project has 2 versions. This is the triangular version, and then there's also a square version. I decided to do the triangle because I like the way this is worn. So anyway, there is a Sizzle Pop workshop at DFW Fiber Fest next year. So if you don't feel quite comfortable enough going it alone, and you want just a little bit of extra help, you should definitely look into that. So I think that'll be exciting to see, people that are learning it, and maybe all the different Sizzle Pops that come out, the different color combinations from that workshop. But yeah, so love this project. It is really fabulous. And I will talk in the what I'm knitting section for the couple of other things that I kind of worked on in the time that I was working on this. So the other thing that I finished is this guy behind me. So he is crocheted. So this is pretty big. It was some worsted weight yarn. It was some worsted weight that was in my stash. So it was Cascade 220 that I had left over from a hat that I made last year at Christmas for my niece. I actually wasn't expecting it to use this much yarn. I'm glad that I had quite a bit of the Cascade 220 because I originally wanted to make him all purple, but I did not have enough of the purple to make his body. I actually made the body last. So I had to switch over to the gray, which actually I'm liking better than probably the all purple would have been. Anyway, so for those of you who watch the podcast, you know I've not really been a crocheter. That is something that I have picked up very, very recently. And this is my first actual project with crochet. I did some like blocks for an Afghan for Warm Up America. And I did just a little ball that I did to kind of practice the increases and decreases. But this is my first actual crochet project. And really the reason I want to crochet is to make things like this. I actually kind of want to make them smaller. I think this is worsted weight yarn. I think I want to do definitely some fingering weight yarn, but I thought I would start with worsted weight so I would really be able to see the stitches and see what I'm doing. And I really like this guy. My son has given him a name. His name is Monsterly. And I will, actually I'll just show you now. I've got in the what I'm stashing section, this is a brand new book that I picked up, and the pattern that I made for him. So when in the what I'm stashing section, I'll talk a little bit more about my trip to West 7th Wool, last week. But I saw this book, so Edward's Crochet Imaginarium, and I decided to go ahead and pick it up. And the really neat thing about this book is that it is a flip book where you can make different combinations. So there's feet, there's arms, and there's heads. So here's a random combination. So you can have just kind of endless combinations. I mean, I'm sure there is actually an end, but tons and tons of different combinations. So you can have those types of ears. You can have little hair sticking out. There's some little ears there. So anyway, you can mix and match different things and create your own little monster. So I thought this was a really fun idea because I thought that I could make lots and lots of different things out of this. The body, there is basically one pattern for the body. So the body is the same across all the projects, and then you mix and match for the heads, arms, and feet. And there are 23 heads, arms, and feet. There are also tails, and I thought about putting a tail on this guy, but I decided that I wanted him without a tail. Although, I may go back and put on a tail on him at some point. Who knows? And then she actually does give you a little guide if you want to make one of the exact ones that you see on the cover. There is, here's the combo that I used to make this one. So anyway, so I thought that was a fun book, and so I picked it up, and I decided that I didn't want to just put the book in my stash and imagine doing different crochet things. I really wanted to go ahead and do something. So that's why I jumped in with this guy and made him. So, I guess I learned a few things in crochet. I'd already done the increases and decreases with that little practice ball, but it was definitely paying attention to where the stitches are. When I was doing the decreases, I was having trouble finding the next stitch to go into after doing the decrease. I couldn't really tell as easily where the stitches were. I'm still very much learning the structure of crochet and what it looks like. So the person who I took the crochet, the beginning crochet class, Connie, she gave us some advice about using stitch markers. So those stitch markers that you can open and close to mark various stitches. So obviously to mark the very first stitch in a row or around. So I definitely used that. But I also used a stitch marker to mark, so when I knew, okay, these 2 stitches are the stitches I'm going to decrease, so the stitch after that will be the one that I need to work after the decrease. So that stitch to work after the decrease, I would put a stitch marker in it, so, and then go back and do the decrease, and then I would know exactly where the next stitch was. And that helped me, and I also kind of practiced really looking at the fabric to see like what that looked like each time. So I'm not quite ready to completely give up the stitch marker. I think that's definitely helpful, but I'm getting more comfortable with reading the stitches and knowing where they are. So yeah, I'm looking forward. I might get a little tired of knitting this body the same all the time, but I think using different yarns and doing different patterns, not just using the yarn, you know, straight, but maybe doing some stripes or even other color work types of things, which not even sure how to do that. But I know it's possible, so maybe that'll be something to investigate, you know, and kind of changing it up a bit, and using different yarns. I wasn't sure if I should put a mouth on him. I kind of like him without a mouth, but maybe at some point I'll stitch a little mouth on him. I did run into the problem that I've always run into even when I've done knitting types of projects like this, that I'm not always great about lining up all the body parts. So his legs, this leg should probably be forward a little bit more. They're not quite evenly put on there. I think this arm, well, maybe I think it's about right. The head looks like it probably is a little twisted. Anyway, so he's a little bit wonky, but you know what? I mean, that's I think what a little bit endearing. That's what makes him kind of extra cute. So anyway, I am looking forward to the next little monster that I make. My son has already picked out his little combination. In fact, I've got his little piece of paper that he wrote down which head, arm, and foot, the number that he wants me to use. The legs part. So the book has beginning to advanced options, and so obviously the ones that are earlier on are the more beginner ones, and that's what I stuck to, and the later on ones are the harder ones. And since there are 23 in the book, well, the 23rd is probably one of the hardest ones, and of course that's the one my son picked. So I'll see, give it a try and see how it turns out. But he has put in his order for his monster, and he wants it to be red. Those are the 2 requests that he has made. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think this is a fun book. Lots of options to explore and practice crocheting. This is the whole reason why I wanted to crochet. So I'm glad to actually be doing something with it. So after I finished Sizzle Pop, I pulled out some other projects that have been kind of stagnating a little bit. So the one that I really kind of turned my attention to, I thought that I would turn my attention more to the sweaters, but I picked back up 3 sheets, which is a shawl made out of my Cornwall base, which is DK weight 100% BFL. So it starts down at the bottom, and then you have these cables that go out, and I probably worked 2 or 3 more repeats. Based upon what the pattern suggests, I think I figured it out last night, 102 more rows to go before I get to the border section. So I will probably, because this is definitely not quite big enough, I will probably do what the pattern says and do the number of repeats. I'm probably able to do almost a full repeat in probably a half a repeat in a good knitting section, like in the evening. So a repeat is 16 rows. I think that's right. So that's still, probably a couple of weeks worth of work if this were a project that I really focused on. maybe a week or two, but I probably will be working on a few other things as well. But hopefully we'll make more progress on that. It is meant to be a sample for my booth, since it is something out of Cornwall, but it's going to be a sample that I will probably also kind of keep out and wear a bit. So that's something that I'm excited about. I have worked a little bit more on boxy. I think last time I had already divided for the front, so that's still where I am. So I've done all the knitting in the round, and now I'm knitting back and forth for the front. So that's how much, well, that's actually a pretty good amount. That's how much I've worked. I kind of tried it on, which it's so hard to try this on because it is so big. But I tried it on this morning and kind of measured where this is in relation to the armhole, so I could see, do I want to follow along with the measurements of the pattern? Do I think that that it's good where it is? And I think I probably need, according to the pattern, I need another 3/4 of an inch before I hit where the pattern recommends. And I don't know that I need that whole 3/4 of an inch, but I probably need at least half an inch. So I'll probably go up to the 3/4 to get a good fit. Because after you knit straight, then you start decreasing. But I think the decreases, kind of where they start is where the neckline is. So basically it's going to kind of go around to hit the shoulders, so that when you work the back up, then you can, I think it's a 3 needle bind off for the shoulders. So I don't want to make it too tight, because I don't know about you, but anything that like pulls really strongly in the underarm is really uncomfortable. And the whole point of this is supposed to be my comfortable lounge around the house type of sweater. So I definitely don't want any places to be too tight. Probably this is a case where just a little bit loose is better. So I think I will err on the side of slightly too big rather than slightly too small. Then the other project is my socks that I've been working on out of the Mustache Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, and Anakin colorways. So I've shown you before, the Luke one is finished, and I am on the Anakin one. Put Luke back in the bag. I'm on the Anakin one. In here, you can see I've got that red stripe, second one in there. I am, if I measure, I'm kind of holding it up to the first sock to measure. I am about 3 rows away from starting the heel, so making decent progress on these. A little bit slower than I had hoped. I was hoping to be able to knit pairs of socks a little bit faster, like one a month, but that doesn't really seem to be happening. But I'm enjoying that. So then, after my after I finished Sizzle Pop, I finished it in the evening. So the next morning I woke up to have my coffee and knitting time, and I thought, what has been in my knitting basket for a while that I haven't worked on? And I remembered these socks from Tour de Sock that I have not finished. So, this bag does not want to open. So stage 5 and stage 6, the last 2 stages, I thought that even though I didn't finish on time, I would go ahead and finish the socks. And so I pulled this out because I thought, I do like this sock. The pattern is good. I was on the heel. So it'd be nice to kind of finish the heel and get to the foot, because usually once I'm on the foot of a sock, it goes a lot faster. Even though this is the first sock and I still would have to knit the second one. And I thought, okay. But since I had the heel, I thought, I'm going to also try it on just to make sure, because I have had problems with some patterned socks not fitting. So I went ahead and put it on my foot, and when you stretch it out, no, you really can't. In person, I can see the stitch pattern. Someone in my knitting group said that on camera, she's not really able to see the stitch pattern, so I don't know how well you can see that. But it is visible in person more. Anyway, so I put it on my foot. And the sparkly bits in this is Lurex, so which I don't remember exactly what that is, but it's different from the Angelina and Stellina that a lot of sparkle yarns have. And basically, it is actually like part of the yarn. It is when it's spun more into the yarn, whereas Angelina and Stellina seem like you could actually like pull them out, pull out the little sparkles. I guess this is integrated more into the yarn. I'm not really sure how to explain it. Anyway, so it's really pretty and I like the yarn. I like this sock pattern. I think the designer has done a good job with this sock pattern. But when I put it on my foot, I realized the lurex is kind of scratchy. And it doesn't really feel good on my foot, especially since I have part of the heel now. I could feel it start to go on the foot part, not just the leg. And I'm really not happy with this. And whew, one of the cats just made a big noise. I don't know if you heard it. So I'm not happy with this. So guess what, guys? I made the decision that if I'm not happy with it, I'm not going to want to work on it. So why am I continuing to have it in my works in progress? I should reclaim the needles because these are my flexi flips. So I definitely want to reclaim those because I enjoy using them and I would like to use them for other sock projects. So if you can't tell, I'm frogging this sock because I really feel like this is a project that is not going to work out very well. I'm not going to be happy with the finished socks. I'm probably not going to wear them. And so why take the time and use the yarn? Because that's really pretty yarn. I should make it something else. So I'm not going to sit here and unravel the entire sock on the air, but I did want to start doing this frogging process so that it's stopped sitting in my works in progress box. So I will do this later. See, it really is going away. I will finish unraveling it later, and then I'll probably need to wash the yarn to get some of the kinks out. But I'd also used quite a few stitch markers because the way the heel and the gusset works, you have lots of stitch markers. These are all stitch markers from Ann Tudor. So she does these glass stitch markers. So this is an apple, which is actually one that I sent out the Yarn Club. Got some hearts, and then I have this little penguin, which I love this guy. He's so cute, and a snowman. So I have lots of Ann stitch markers, but I can now reuse those, and now I have my flexi flips. Speaking of, I received an email that was advertising new needles from Hiya Hiya that pretty much are exactly like this. They are Hiya Hiya flyers, and I don't think they're available yet. I need to check on that, but they are something that is coming. And the thing with the flexi flips, so the flexi flips are from Addie. Each end, so one end is pointy, so each end is different, and the other end is more blunt. And that's really kind of bothered me with these needles. I like pointy ends, especially like with the sock they were just in with the cables. Doing cables without a cable needle, it's nice to have pointy ends on both sides. So that has been the one thing that I have not really liked about these flexi flips. The Hiya Hiyas, they are sharp on both ends. So I'm going to be very interested in trying those out and seeing if having it be sharp on both ends makes a difference. So that's coming up in future. But for now, those have been freed from a project and can be put to use in another project. So that project is going away. Then, so I made that realization that morning. So I put that project down and I picked up the next sock from Tour de Sock. This one, which I believe is called Sidewinder, which is a really fascinating construction by going around in a spiral. So this is the foot, so it starts with the toe, and going around in a spiral. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun to knit. Very interesting construction. I was on the heel on this one as well. And I looked at this and I thought, I love the way this looks. I really, really love this. This is a variegated yarn, but because the rows are so short, it's looking like it's coming out in stripes. I love that. I love the color combination. There's a lot to love about this. What I don't love is how it's fitting. A lot of people, both in my Tour de Sock team as well as just in the larger Tour de Sock group, these socks just don't really seem to fit very well, which is the unfortunate thing about some of the interesting constructions. So I realized that even if I finish this sock and then still knit the second sock, again, it's probably going to be a sock that I don't wear very much because it just doesn't fit. So guess what needs to happen with this as well? It needs to be frogged. So these are also some flexi flips I think these are the ones that are the one size down. Normally I use a US 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter. I am a tight knitter, so that is what I knit my socks on. And I think these are ones, which is a 2.25. I think I said that right. So yeah, so there I just released the needles. I have, again, another Ann Tudor stitch marker, Little Sheep. And I will be frogging this as well. So again, I won't do it on camera, especially because it'll start with one and then I'll need to go into the other. At least they're not done at the same time. I frogged a colorwork sock 4 from Tour de Sock recently, and I had to get my husband to help so we could wind the balls since there were 2 colors coming off at once. So 2 projects being frogged. So that means what is currently on my needles are the projects that I just showed you, and my Let Go cardigan that still needs sleeves, which I'm going to put those sleeves on. I really, really am. It's actually up there on top of the this shelf right here. And I just need to take it down and put it in my knitting basket and just sit down and start the sleeve. I think it's honestly not knitting the sleeves, it's starting the sleeves, you know, picking up the stitches around the armhole and everything. For some reason, I just really don't like doing that part. So if I can just sit down and make myself do that, getting into the sleeve shouldn't be as big of a deal. So anyway, 2 projects off the list. And I guess that means I get to hopefully start some new projects soon. So last week on Friday, I took my friend Heather and we went up to West 7th Wool because I had some yarn to deliver. For those of you in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, West 7th Wool is the yarn shop in Fort Worth, and they had previously ordered some of my Merlin base, which is my fingering weight merino nylon, and this time they ordered more Merlin and Cornwall, which is BFL. I think I mentioned last time that I was working on that order. So last week on Friday, I delivered that yarn. And I mean, you know, you're there. If you've been in West 7th Wool, it's got so many gorgeous yarns. And so of course I went shopping, which is one reason why I brought my friend, because I knew she wanted to go shopping too. And I actually did have a project in mind. There is a brioche hat, which I don't remember the name of the hat itself, but Leslie Ann Robinson is the designer. It's a brioche hat that I've wanted to make, and it's out of DK weight yarn. And I looked at my stash and I really I had this kind of dark purple and lighter purple option that I could have done, but I really didn't really feel that option. So I decided to get something new because, you know, why use your stash when you can buy something new? I need to use my stash because I've got gorgeous yarns in there. Anyway, so they have Dream and Color DK weight. So bought these 2. So I think these will look fun together as the brioche hat. This side of this skein you can see a little bit more. It's got some kind of orangey speckles in there. So I think that'll be kind of some fun color pops right there. So that is the option that I picked. And now that I finished Sizzle Pop, I think I will wind these skeins and kind of get started on that hat. Then while I was in there, I also picked up the crochet book that I showed you guys already. And then this is a skein coat. So basically what it is, so there's the little tag, is you have this knit fabric, so it's stretchy, and should have grabbed a yarn. So when you wind yarn into a cake, sometimes I'm a center pull, so especially as you get toward the middle to the end of your project, your center pull ball is kind of collapsing and getting really messy. So if you put this around the center pull ball of yarn or cake of yarn, it will, because it's stretchy, as the cake kind of collapses in, this will keep it much tidier. So, I mean, look at the little fabric. I had to get that one. I've wanted to try one of these out and see how they work. So, especially since they had this fabric, I went ahead and picked this up. I haven't used it yet. I think I will probably, whenever I wind one of these, I needed two, since I will technically have 2 skeins of yarn, but I think I will go ahead and put it around one of these and give it a try. So that is what I ended up picking up at West 7th Wool. And so that yarn does have an immediate project. But the other thing that I have to share with you is something I'm just absolutely blown away by. It was a gift, and I just feel completely spoiled. So somebody actually watches the podcast, so hello, Leslie, recently went to Europe on a trip. So I think it was Budapest, because that's where the bag is from, and Amsterdam. I'm not sure exactly where else she went, but she actually bought some gifts for me. Thank you. So she got this fabulous bag, and it's a great size, it's a great shape, and it has a zipper. Everyone always knows I need zippers because of the cats, who have been crazy. Little side note, so Luke had made a little mummy for Halloween, so it was basically like a cutout, so it almost looked like a gingerbread man wrapped with yarn. Yeah, guess what? Wally found that. Destroyed it. I don't know what it is about yarn. Anyway, so thank you for the zipper bag. Definitely good to keep in mind. Then, when she was in Amsterdam, she was at the Stephen and Penelope shop, which is a yarn shop owned by Stephen West. And this yarn, which comes from GA yarn. So I took German in high school. I think it is a hard G yarn, or is it yarn? Not really sure. Maybe if you guys know, you can let me know. Stories. So it is a hand-dyed yarn in Germany, and it is called Perplosion. I think that is what the colorway name says. So lots of great purples. Okay, so look at this, guys. Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, super gorgeous. Amazingly gorgeous. Holy cow, you guys. I can make a sweater or something. I can make a giant project with this. Thank you. I have no idea yet what it's going to become. I've just been staring at the yarn because it is so fabulous. Can't believe just the generosity. Thank you so much. That is going to be so much fun to work with, and I need to explore my pattern options. But as if the bag and the yarn weren't enough, there's also this little bag of just cute little notions. So a measuring tape, so the little ear comes up. There's the measuring tape. Super cute kitty. More kitties. These are some buttons. So black and white cats, and then they have the little, I guess it's called a shank on the back for the buttons. There is some hand cream, and it says it says Welsh Lavender Limited. Let's see. So I guess that is the name of the country or company. It smells really nice, and it's the light really does not want you to see that. So it's kind of a softer hand cream. I haven't used it yet because I wanted to show you guys. Now that I've shown you guys, I can put this in my bag and actually use it. But it smells really, really nice. And then there are these stitch markers from Stephen and Penelope, and their logo is these little bikes there. So that's what the stitch markers are. So hopefully you can see that little bicycle. Isn't that adorable? So there's a little collection of these stitch markers. So those are going to be fun to add to projects. Definitely whatever I decide to make out of this purple yarn, I will use these stitch markers with them. So, oh my gosh, I am just thank you. That's not enough to say. But I feel very, very blessed, and I'm looking forward to figuring out what this yarn is going to become and using the bag and all of the other stuff. And that's what has gone into my stash. There is one question for Karen that is posted on the Ravelry group. So Christy Rose asks, do you think that you will keep dyeing all of your colorways on Merlin, or is it too early to tell? So for those of you who don't know the background, basically the Merlin base, which is a fingering weight merino nylon, so good sock yarn. I used to only dye that with the self-striping colors. I did not dye the regular tonals and semi-solids on that, unless you asked for a special order. I did it for special orders, but not on a regular basis. And honestly, I'm really not sure why. But to me, that was the self-striping base, and that was kind of it. But then several of you started asking about carrying more regularly the other colorways on that base, and so I tried it as an experiment. And I'm not sure when I started that. Yeah, I can't remember exactly when I started that, but it has been enough time to, I think, really kind of see, because it's been several fiber festivals that I've had it. So I think it's given me enough time to judge whether or not that was a good thing and whether or not it will continue. And the good news, assuming that that you, not just Christy, but whoever is watching this, like that base with the semi-solids and tonal colors, yes, I definitely plan to continue offering the semi-solids and tonals on the Merlin base because it is selling pretty well. I think Camelot is my top selling yarn. It always has been, the merino cashmere nylon. Merlin, I haven't separated out because I just have it classified as Merlin in my spreadsheet. So I haven't separated how much is the self-striping versus how much is the semi-solids and tonals. But it is right up there with Camelot as far as numbers sold. And since I haven't been doing a lot of self-striping dyeing lately, most of the sales have been the semi-solids and tonals. But I'm definitely, I dye quite a bit of it, and I don't have a ton of it in stock. So that seems to me to say that it definitely is selling. I probably should split out the numbers and see how much is self-striping versus how much is the semi-solids and tonals. But overall, I can see that it's definitely selling pretty well. So yes, I am going to continue offering that base with both self-striping, once I start dyeing self-striping again, and the semi-solids and tonals. I do think I've kind of been thinking about, different yarn bases to carry, and this goes beyond the question. I've really wanted to carry kind of a BFL in nylon sock base, but I kind of feel like right now I've got a lot of different bases, especially in the fingering weight bases, and so I'm hesitant to add new bases. But looking at the numbers, there's not a base that I'm carrying right now that is very obviously a base to potentially stop carrying. Whereas in the past, some of my bases, I could tell just they were not selling well at all, and those bases I've discontinued. Although things like Grail and Legend are not top sellers, they are definitely holding their own. And I think some of that, like Grail is a merino cashmere silk. That is a luxury base, and I know that price point wise, it is a much higher price point, which I know is going to be to make it something that doesn't sell, huge numbers. But just compared to especially some of the bases I've discontinued, Grail is definitely selling well compared to those. So even the bases that are kind of on the lower end of sales right now, they're still comparatively doing pretty well. So right now, I don't see any base that needs to be discontinued. Lancelot, the worsted weight base, is still a little up in the air, mostly because it's a different supplier. But as far as all the other bases, everything else seems safe right now. Now I say that, and the next 6 months to a year, things could change. But everything seems to be going pretty well, so I don't see taking away any bases. And although I would like to add bases, it feels like right now I'm kind of at the point where the number of bases I have is what I can handle as far as trying to keep a decent amount of colors in stock. But there are some bases that I kind of want to give a try. So again, I know this goes far afield of what you asked, Christy. But it is something, to keep in mind and think of. I don't want to be stagnant where I never introduce anything new, but I also want to make sure that I don't overwhelm with too much choice. I really make decisions based on sales. But right now, Merlin and the semi-solids and tonals, it is strong in sales, so it is definitely nowhere near consideration for getting cut. So yeah, Merlin is going well. For Roundtable Yarns, I basically have event news. So like I said at the very beginning, tomorrow and Saturday is the East Texas Fiber Festival. That is in Lindale, Texas, which is right around Tyler. And I think the Friday hours start at noon and go to 6, and Saturday I think it's 10 to 4. I really should look that up. They have a website, East Texas Fiber Festival. You can look it up and get the information. But I will be basically hopping in my car really early tomorrow morning, since it doesn't open till noon tomorrow. Setup starts at 6 a.m., but I don't want to leave quite that early, so I'm planning to leave here at 6 a.m. It's about a 2-hour drive. Figure if I can get there about 8, that'll give me 4 hours. So I should be able to set up within 4 hours, get something to eat, lunch-wise, and then go to the festival. So last year I did not go to this festival, and then, which I was kind of sad about because the previous 2 years I had gone. This is the 4th year. So years 1 and 2 I went. Last year, year 3, I skipped it, and this year is year 4. The main reason I skipped it last year, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this, is because the first 2 years it was a 1-day event, and last year it was a 2-day event. And the place that it currently is a building that is a brick building, but it had no windows and doors. It's used kind of like as a farmer's market type of thing. So there were no windows and doors. There were holes, but nothing covering them. Which the first year especially, the weather was really rainy and bad, and wool is a great absorber of moisture. I mean, that's one of its properties. And I could tell just during the day that my yarn was absorbing the moisture from the air. And when I got it home, I had to leave it out to make sure that it dried before I packed it back away, because I didn't want to leave any of that moisture in the yarn. So I was concerned last year with leaving the yarn overnight, since I didn't know what the weather conditions would be like. Although it has a roof and it has walls, especially if I was next to a wall, next to a window space. I had no idea what the elements would be like. I also had no idea, honestly, for critters, any type of insects or even other types of critters. And I did not want to leave my yarn exposed to that. That was just my personal decision. I did not feel comfortable with my inventory like that. The good news is this year they have windows and doors. So the building has windows and doors, and I'm very happy about that I don't have to worry about leaving it open to the elements overnight. Next year, apparently there's going to be a new space that it gets moved to. I don't know anything about the new space yet. I just know there's going to be a new space. But it'll be nice to go back and see what this building looks like with windows and doors. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to that. Then after that, I have a new event that I haven't really shared much about yet because it just got organized. So there is a woman named Julie who is planning to open a yarn shop in Fort Worth. She has unfortunately had just some personal family things come up that has delayed the progress. Her shop will be called Juju Knits. Her name is Julie, so Juju Knits. And even though she's not ready to open her shop, she definitely wants to be involved in the community. And she hosted an event over the summer for Knit in Public Day, which I went to. And so she decided that she wants to have another event, kind of a little pop-up event. So if you are in the Fort Worth area on Saturday, December 1st, from 10 to 2, and I'm reading my computer screen if you're wondering why I'm looking over to the side. So Saturday, December 1st, from 10 to 2, at the Center for the Healing Arts, which if you went to the Knit in Public Day, it was held at the Three Danes Baking Company, which, by the way, the food, the stuff that they bake, so good. So apparently this Center for the Healing Arts is next to the Three Danes Baking Company. So it's that area if you went and if you're familiar with that. And there will actually be some complimentary goodies from Three Danes. So looking forward to that. Basically, it'll be a few hours to sit around, knit, crochet, spin, and chat, and do a little bit of shopping. I will have a trunk show. There will also be a trunk show from Dye to Spin, and another trunk show featuring, and I'm reading off the screen again, featuring wool roving harvested from locally raised Rambouillet sheep, presented by Michelle Holler. So that's somebody I'm not familiar with, but I have spun Rambouillet. Rambouillet is nice. So I'm looking forward to that. I definitely want to see what that fiber is like. So I may do a little bit of shopping myself. There might be some more trunk shows and other things that are popping up. This is something that Julie is in the process of still organizing and getting all the final details. So there is a Facebook event. I will go ahead and link to it in the show notes. I've also linked to it on the Roundtable Yarns Facebook page. So you can keep up with all of the details. The best place to do that is that Facebook event. Because Julie's been adding details as it goes. So there will be also spinning demonstrations, free 10-minute relaxation therapy sessions, and then the complimentary Danish goodies from Three Danes. And a nice thing is a percentage of all of the sales, so anything that you buy from me or anything that you buy from any of the other trunk shows, will be donated to Fort Worth-based Cancer Care Services, a nonprofit that provides financial, emotional, and social support to cancer patients and their caregivers in Tarrant, Parker, and Hood counties. And she gives you a link to that organization on that event page. I haven't decided yet exactly what percentage of the sales are going to go to that. But definitely a percentage of the sales. I kind of want to see what some of the other people there are doing, and kind of go within that same frame. So anyway, I think this will be a fun little pop-up event, and I hope to see you there if you are in the area. Then the other event that'll be coming up after that, in February, I've already mentioned the Winter Fun Fiber Retreat. I think that's what it's called. I will link to it in the show notes. So that again is also in Fort Worth. It is at a hotel in Fort Worth. Lots of classes, a lot of fun, different classes. Not just knitting and crochet and spinning, but tatting, which is a class that I'm going to take, and some other types of things. So again, if you're in the area, look that up. I am teaching a class called All About the Yarn. You're going to get lots and lots of yarn samples for you to actually work with. So looking at different ply structures, different fiber content, different amounts of twist, etc. There are still spaces open in the class. In fact, there are still a lot of spaces open in the class. I hope people sign up for it. Thank you to those of you who already have. So I'm really excited about teaching that and looking forward to it. So again, that is in February, Winter Fiber Fun Retreat, and I will link to that in the show notes as well. And then of course after that, April DFW Fiber Fest. So pretty much, although I will be, preparing and doing some dyeing for the other events, Once I get back from the East Texas Fiber Festival, I am making up my list of this is what I want to have ready for DFW, because once again I have a double booth, so I really want to make sure I have plenty of product to fill it. And I am going to be starting pretty much, maybe I'll take next week off a little bit, but pretty much right after I get back from East Texas, working on prepping for DFW, because yeah, I'm right now I'm kind of at a lowish point in my inventory, so I've got a lot to build up, and I need to get back into doing some self-striping. Fortunately, it does seem like taking a break has helped this shoulder a lot. I'm not noticing pain whenever I'm like reaching up so I'm reaching with this arm to show you when I'm reaching up in the kitchen cabinets. I'm not noticing pain anymore in the shoulder, just slight tinge, but definitely not the pain. So hopefully that's a good sign, and I will take it slowly. But I think that I'm ready to at least try doing some of the prep and the dyeing for self-striping again. And if that shoulder starts to hurt even a little bit, then I'll pull back and take a break. But I think if I take it slowly and kind of start now, that should give me time between now and April to build up some stock for DFW. And I will be posting things on the website as well for those of you who are not coming to DFW. But it'll be slow, but hopefully I will actually be making progress, which will be a big change from the last couple of months. And really, there are a couple of other kind of things that I've been thinking about doing. The current yarn club is almost done. There is one more shipment going out on the 15th of this month, and then that club will be done. I do not have the next club planned out. I just need to sit down and think about things. There are a couple of different options that I kind of have. So I just need to sit down and do some planning. That's also probably what starting next week is going to be happening. So hopefully there will be more news coming up for Roundtable Yarns, but I definitely wanted to let you know about all the upcoming events. And that's it for this episode. Like I said, got some more stuff that I need to get done, all the packing and everything to leave in the morning for East Texas Fiber Festival. So I'd better hop to that. Thank you so very much for watching this episode. If you see this before the East Texas Fiber Fest and you're there, make sure you say hi. I definitely, and let me know that you watch the podcast. I love getting to meet you guys in person. And if you are on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment, or you can come over to the Ravelry group for the podcast and you can go to the discussion thread and leave a comment. There's also the quarterly knit along going on. This Sizzle Pop is actually my entry for the Q4 knit along, which is any shawl that you make using stashed yarn, so yarn that was in your stash prior to October 1st, which was the start of this quarter. So I've actually finished well ahead of time. You've got until the end of the year, December 31st, to finish for this quarter's knit along or crochet along. So I hope you will join us for that. There's the discussion thread and the FO thread in the Ravelry group for that. But definitely come and leave comments, join the discussion, because like I've said, that is my favorite part. Not just talking to you guys, but hearing what you guys have to say. You know what my absolute favorite part is? When you guys talk to each other. I love that. Yeah, I love watching that going on. So thank you so much for being part of this community. It really means a lot to me. Not just that you listen to me, but that you also, take part and in the discussion. So I invite you to do that. Until next time, happy knitting!